Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new week of the weekly Forex market analysis. For the coming week, we will be looking at the AUDJPY, the NZDJPY, the Euro AUD, and the GBPAUD. After recapping what we had on the watch list for last week. Before we come on to what we have on the watch list for this week, let us do a quick recap of what we had on the watch list for last week. So for last week, Euro USD was the first pair on the watch list. We were looking at a retest of the trend line or a breakout of the trend line. The breakout came out earlier within the week, and then we even had a retest of the price of interest before the Euro USD went bearish for the rest of the week. Let us take a look at the GBP USD as well. The GBP USD was a bit trickish as it first retested the trend line as if the bulls were taking over, but then it was a fake retest and then it broke down throughout the course of the week to follow the trail of the Euro USD. Moving on to the third pair on the watch list for the previous week is the Euro NZD. The Euro NZD on this pair also, we were looking at a retest of this trend line or a breakout and a possible retest of the trend line. We had the retest later within the week, so the Euro NZD also met expectations slightly even as it retraced some of its gains. The GBP NZD was the final pair on the watch list for last week, and then it didn't meet any of the expectations that we were looking at, so the GBP NZD was let go. Let us move on to what we have for this week. The AUDJPY opens up the curtains for the coming week. So the AUDJPY is currently bearish as it is trading below the uptrend line that we've had over here for weeks. For the coming week, we'll be looking at these prices of interest, that is the 93.139 and the trend line as areas of interest to place our clues and trade ideas against the AUDJPY. Obviously, we'll be looking at the retest to these levels for the bears to take over again. This is my perspective on the AUDJPY. You can set your ideas against them as well. One thing that is worthy of noting is that if the AUDJPY breaks through this uptrend line, my bearish trade idea will be invalidated and should be taking note of that as well. But for now, I'm completely bearish on the AUDJPY with these parameters. The NZDJPY has a lot of similarities with the AUDJPY. We can actually see clearly on the screen that they are having similar market moves. The NZDJPY was also trading on an uptrend line, but before the previous week ended, the bears took over the NZDJPY. So we have 2 points of contact to look at for this pair. We have this red line, which is a price of interest, and the trend line as a possible new resistance. So a retest into this area, or even a retest that touches the trend line for the bears to fall back down, is my expectation on the NZDJPY. In case the NZDJPY breaks above the trend line, I'll let go of my bearish bias and look for a new trade idea on the NZDJPY. But overall, I'm very bearish on the NZDJPY if this situation occurs. The GBPAUD has a very interesting pattern to look at. It is currently trading on an uptrend line, which is still in the process of formation. It is still in the process of formation because there are only 2 touches of the trend line. So for the coming week, the actual trade idea from this pair you should be looking at should be coming from the 3rd touch of the trend line that is still in the process of formation. So we will be looking at a retest of the trend line, and if that happens, anticipate a shooting up for the bulls to take over. And then if the retest of the trend line area occurs and the bulls fail to shoot up, be on the lookout for this breakout of the trend line for the bears to take over this pair. Those are the 2 scenarios that we'll be looking for on the GBPAUD. Let us move on to the final pair on the watch list that has a lot of similarities with this very pair. Welcome to the Euro AUD, the final pair on the watch list, which has a lot of similarities with the GBPAUD. We'll be looking at similar market movements on this one as well. So without wasting a lot of time, we'll be looking towards the retest of this trend line for the bulls to take over. That is the first possibility. And the second possibility is if the retracement up to the trend line comes, we could also be conversely looking at the breakout of the trend line for the bears to take over to fully overturn this Euro AUD's current trend of the bullish strength. That is it for the coming week. I wish you a profitable trading week. Trade safe, stay safe. See you next week.